The New York Charity Gala, which was supposed to be a shining moment for Harry and Meghan, turned instead into the center of an unprecedented media storm. Amid the dazzling lights, the applause, and the flashing cameras, people witnessed something that was never part of the plan. A tense argument between two people once praised as the golden couple of the British royal family. The exchange of words, the cold stares, and Harry's long silence afterward set off a wave of public reaction. Some said it was just a minor disagreement, but others believed it was a sign that their marriage crisis had reached its limit, because those cracks didn't appear overnight. They were the result of years of pressure, from fame, from conflicting ambitions, and from the influence of third parties. Marcus Anderson, Meghan's mysterious close friend, was once again mentioned. As many sources claimed, he was the man behind the media strategies that made Harry feel pushed aside. The tension grew even worse when the incident in Paris reopened the deep wound of Harry's mother's death, a memory that had never healed, now stirred again at a fragile moment. The couple who were once symbols of freedom are now facing heavy questions: declining finances after a series of failed deals, custody concerns if divorce happens, and above all, the risk of a brand collapse if their image loses public favor. It has become a dangerous mix, where reputation, money, and emotion collide fiercely. That gala night may have lasted only a few hours, but its aftershocks are still spreading to this day. To understand why the New York Gala became a turning point, let's look closely at the details of Harry and Meghan's heated argument. The Charity Gala in New York, which gathered hundreds of celebrities, business leaders, and top politicians, was expected to be the moment for Harry and Meghan to reaffirm their image as a powerful, united, and compassionate couple. But only hours after the event ended, social media erupted with rumors that they had a major argument backstage, one so intense that security had to step in. Witnesses at the event recalled how the elegant and glamorous atmosphere quickly turned into a cold battlefield, where laughter was replaced by harsh words and wounded looks. Everything had started out perfectly. Meghan appeared in a white evening gown decorated with delicate crystals, while Harry wore a classic black suit. They walked the red carpet to cheers from the crowd, holding hands and smiling for the cameras. But those who looked closely noticed that their smiles seemed slightly forced. During her speech, Meghan spoke at length, her tone firm and confident, while Harry stood silently beside her, his face showing a hint of tension. The cameras caught the moment he glanced at his wife with an expression that mixed exhaustion and disappointment. When the main program ended, the couple left the stage to prepare for their meeting with the sponsors. It was backstage that everything fell apart. A staff member recalled hearing Meghan shout, her voice echoing through the hallway, "You always make me look like the one at fault." Harry replied, his tone low but restrained, "You don't understand me at all." Meghan. The tension escalated. Meghan turned away, raising her hand in anger toward Harry, while he stood still, his face flushed, both fists clenched tightly. The atmosphere became so heavy that two security staff had to step in to calm things down. Another witness said Meghan walked out first, her face cold, lips tightly pressed together, while Harry stayed behind for a few moments, staring at the floor before sighing and walking off in the opposite direction. When she returned to the main hall, Meghan kept her composure in front of the cameras. Her smile remained, but the light in her eyes was gone. Harry sat apart, barely making eye contact or showing any gestures of affection. Photographers noted that throughout the rest of the evening, the two no longer held hands or exchanged a single warm glance like before. On social media, a video showing Meghan quickly leaving through the back door without waiting for her husband went viral, gaining millions of views. Some sources claim they left the venue in separate cars. The New York Post even ran a mocking headline, "Love wasn't the spotlight tonight." By the next morning, royal and media experts had begun analyzing every detail of their body language on stage, from their averted gazes and relaxed hands to their half smiles, all pointing to one conclusion. This was not a random argument, but the culmination of long-building tension in their marriage. A former staff member who once worked with them revealed that Harry had often felt overlooked in their joint projects. He felt like he was living in Meghan's shadow, the source said. Meanwhile, Meghan believed Harry was too sensitive, not strong enough to handle the pressures of the media. Both were exhausted, and the gala night was simply the moment when years of buried tension finally erupted. What stirred the public even more was the image of Harry sitting silently in the car, head bowed, staring through the fogged-up window as they left the hotel, while Meghan smiled at the paparazzi cameras. The contrast said more than words ever could. It was no longer the story of a couple who left the royal family to live happily ever after, but proof of a relationship cracking at its core. And though their representatives later denied all rumors, claiming that no argument took place, the photos, the glances, and the distance between them on stage told a different story, one that was more real, more painful, and impossible to hide. The main cause of this argument, insiders say, was Marcus Anderson. What role does he play in Meghan's life? Marcus Anderson, a name that once seemed like a minor detail in Meghan Markle's glamorous social circle, has now become the center of controversy, shaking the very foundation of her marriage to Prince Harry. He is no stranger to her world. Marcus has been Meghan's close friend for years, accompanying her to countless events during her days in Toronto, when she starred in Suits. But after Meghan left the royal family, his role went far beyond friendship. He became part of the machinery behind the Meghan Markle image, media, and brand strategy. According to several sources, Marcus is a senior executive at Soho House, the exclusive private club network that attracts influential figures from media and entertainment. It was through this circle that Meghan connected with the people who helped pave her new path after leaving Buckingham Palace. Marcus didn't just introduce her to producers and directors, he also played a key role in shaping her media strategy, from Netflix deals to high-profile Vogue photo shoots. In other words, he became the right hand in building the Meghan brand. And that, insiders say, is what made Harry feel pushed aside. At the New York Charity Gala, the night everything boiled over, Marcus was seated at the main table, right beside Meghan. What's striking is that Harry reportedly had no idea in advance. A witness described how Harry's face froze for a moment when he saw Marcus there, then turned cold. Throughout the dinner, Meghan chatted animatedly with Marcus and several media partners, laughing more than usual. Harry, meanwhile, sat quietly, occasionally glancing around, occasionally leaving the table to get a drink. One VIP guest put it bluntly, he looked like a guest at his own event. After the event ended and the cameras were gone, confrontation erupted backstage. Harry questioned Meghan, demanding to know why Marcus was given such priority, while Meghan replied that he was just a close friend helping with her work. That answer didn't calm him. For Harry, the issue wasn't friendship, it was boundaries. Marcus wasn't just advising her on professional matters like event planning or styling choices. He was reportedly involved in creative decisions for their Netflix and podcast projects, areas Harry had once believed were their shared vision. One insider explained, Harry feels stripped of his role. He's gone from being a prince to being the man behind the curtain, while Marcus stands beside Meghan. The feeling, they said, wasn't only about jealousy, it was about pride. A man who once stood in the line of succession to the British throne now found himself overshadowed by an outsider. British media outlets have raised the same question repeatedly. Why does Marcus wield such influence? From Meghan's magazine covers to her public speeches, his fingerprints are everywhere. People within her inner circle describe him as an unofficial advisor, but one with real power. Commentators argue that the closeness between Meghan and Marcus has left Harry feeling that she no longer shares her world with him as she once did. Some even go further on, calling Marcus the shadow that always follows Meghan, a presence Harry can never truly escape. When the rumors began to spread, fans quickly split into two camps. One side argued that Meghan had every right to keep close friends, especially those who had helped her rebuild herself after the isolation she faced within the royal family. The other side insisted that she was letting her friends control her personal life, leaving Harry with less and less of a voice in their relationship. And indeed, the images from the gala, Marcus smiling and laughing while Harry sat in silence became a vivid symbol of that imbalance. Many media experts have called this a crisis of trust in their marriage, not simply because of Marcus himself, but because of what he represents: control, soft power, and the quiet ability to shape public perception. For Meghan, Marcus is a confidant who helps her maintain her image and influence. For Harry, he embodies exclusion, a constant reminder that an outsider now stands beside his wife where he once did. It's no wonder, then, that the New York Gala became the final spark. Marcus wasn't just a guest. He was the match that ignited years of built-up tension in Harry and Meghan's marriage. The argument at the gala was merely the peak of a long chain of conflicts that had simmered for years. Those close to the couple say they have fallen into what they call a repeating tension pattern, where the same issues resurface again and again, only the setting changes. And at the center of it all is Harry's growing feeling of being pushed aside. Since leaving the royal family, Harry had hoped he and Meghan would become a team, equal partners, building a new, fair, and balanced life together. But the reality turned out very differently. In every major project, from the Netflix documentaries and the Archetypes podcast to public appearances, Meghan has taken the lead, while Harry has remained in the background, almost as a supporting character in her story. He has often expressed a wish to be more involved, to be heard, but Meghan's reactions have only deepened his hurt. She told him he was being jealous, that he couldn't accept her success. One of Harry's old friends put it simply: he's not jealous. He just feels like he's no longer half of this relationship. From once being a man with a voice in every major decision, Harry has now become someone who learns about plans only after they're finalized. Meghan and her advisors, especially Marcus Anderson, manage everything: the image, the messaging, the brand direction. Harry remains the face of it all, but not the one in control. Whenever Harry speaks up, Meghan often dismisses his feelings. She calls it royal male insecurity, claiming he's trying to assert control. But to Harry, it feels like disrespect. He doesn't want to compete with his wife. He just wants to be heard. Their differing ways of handling conflict have turned every conversation into a confrontation. The more Meghan defends her control, the more Harry feels alienated. According to a close source, the same pattern repeats itself over and over. Harry stays silent. Meghan makes a decision. Harry reacts. Meghan accuses him of being too sensitive. Both believe they're right, and neither will yield. At first, Harry chose silence to keep the peace. But that silence slowly turned into quiet resentment. He began to feel like he was no longer the man of his own home, just a bystander in his own life. What makes it worse is Meghan's approach to the media. She insists on controlling the narrative, always projecting strength and composure, never allowing the public to see weakness. But in doing so, she's also erased Harry's emotional truth, the part of him that just wants to be real, not perfect. He once said in an interview, "I don't want to play the prince or the hero anymore. I just want to be a husband and a father." Yet in Meghan's world, a world built on precision, planning, and image, that kind of simplicity no longer seems to have a place. The imbalance between them has become increasingly visible. Meghan continues to appear at high-profile events, celebrated by the media as independent and powerful, while Harry is portrayed as a man lost. Well, that image hurts him deeply, a reminder of everything he's lost: his standing, his confidence, and a part of himself. Every time he tries to express it, it ends in another argument. And Meghan, instead of recognizing his pain, sees it as defiance. That's why the argument at the gala was no accident. It was the inevitable result of hundreds of quiet collisions before it. The times Harry tried to speak but wasn't heard. The times he reached out but found only distance. This isn't just about Marcus Anderson or work. It's the story of a man slowly being pushed out of the very marriage he once believed was his refuge. A family friend revealed that Harry had tried many times to repair the relationship, even suggesting they attend marriage counseling together. But Meghan refused. saying they didn't need a therapist, just needed to understand each other better. The problem was, she never realized that she wasn't really listening to him. And that, in itself, was the tragedy. One person talking too much, the other staying silent for too long. That pattern didn't just wear down their affection, it slowly eroded Harry's sense of self-respect. And at some point, every unspoken wound demands a way out. One particular incident, though, cut even deeper. The Paris episode. So, what really happened there? Paris, the city of love. But for Harry, it will forever be the city of pain. 28 years have passed since that fateful night that took Princess Diana's life. Yet he has never had the courage to drive through the Pont de l'Alma tunnel, the place where his mother died in the crash that broke the world's heart. It's a wound that never healed, a shadow he has spent his life avoiding. And yet, that very place, the symbol of his greatest loss, became the setting for one of Meghan's brand promotion videos. The trip to Paris had originally been a brief stop in their European charity tour. But that morning, Meghan changed the filming schedule. She asked the team to move near the Pont de l'Alma, explaining that the spot had deep symbolic meaning, a message of overcoming loss and finding light again. When the convoy stopped, Harry immediately recognized where they were. He went quiet, his face drained of color, while Meghan stepped out, adjusted her gown, and smiled softly for the cameras. Harry stood just a few meters away, his eyes empty, as though the memories of 1997 had come rushing back all at once. The filming crew recorded Meghan standing near the tunnel entrance, speaking passionately about the strength of women and the power to rise after tragedy. She believed it was an inspiring message, one that would resonate across international media. But for Harry, every word, every frame felt like a knife twisting through his memories. This wasn't remembrance. It was reenactment, a staged retelling of a pain he had never been able to face. When the shoot ended, he said nothing. He simply turned away and walked quickly back to the car. According to a close source, that night back at the hotel, Harry finally exploded with anger. He demanded to know why Meghan had chosen that exact location without telling him first. Instead of apologizing, she tried to explain that it was for symbolic meaning, that Diana represents the strength and freedom we want to inspire in women around the world. Harry's voice broke as he replied, "You don't understand. My mother died there. You can't turn that into marketing content." There was a long silence. Meghan sighed, then said quietly, "You're overreacting. Harry, this is about the message, not your past." That single sentence shattered him completely. To Harry, it wasn't just insensitivity, it was emotional betrayal. The woman he loved, the one he believed would understand his pain more than anyone, was standing on the other side defending logic instead of heart. From that night on, Harry changed. He spoke less, appeared less, and almost completely withdrew from their shared image building process. When the Netflix team asked for his input, his only reply was short and distant. "I have nothing more to add." Crew members described him as a quiet shadow, present but detached from everything happening around him. Meghan continued filming, still speaking about healing and freedom, but the husband who once stood beside her on that journey had already stepped back. Media analysts later described the Paris incident as the psychological turning point in their relationship. Until then, despite their conflicts, Harry had believed Meghan always meant well. But after that day, he began to doubt not just her choices, but the meaning of their love itself. He realized that between them, emotion and brand strategy had switched places. A family friend recalled Harry once saying, "She can turn everything into a message, except my feelings." It was the bitter confession of a man who no longer felt safe in his own marriage. He had endured the press, the palace, and public scrutiny, but what broke him was seeing the woman he loved use his deepest wound as a backdrop for storytelling. From then on, their relationship entered a cold phase. Meghan kept defending the project, while Harry withdrew further, retreating from the world they had once built together. He stopped giving interviews, stopped using the word "we," and referred instead to Meghan and her projects. The Paris incident carved a new wound into Harry, one without blood, but filled with loneliness. And that very wound led directly to the explosive argument in New York. The Paris incident led directly to the argument in New York. Let's take a closer look at what really happened behind the scenes. The backstage door closed, the music faded, and only the sound of heavy footsteps remained. Thick air, tense enough to choke on. Harry turned around, his voice hoarse from restraint. "Do you even realize what you just did? You made everyone see us as strangers." Meghan stood still, the stage lights catching her flawless makeup, but her eyes were cold, hollow. She replied slowly but with steel in her tone. "Actually, you're the one who's made things strange. You'd rather be pitied than take action." Harry was silent for a long time. He looked down, drew a deep breath, then said softly, "I don't need pity. I just need you to understand me." Meghan let out a short, bitter laugh. "Understand you, Harry, when you need me more than I need you. Without me, you'd still be the failed prince of an outdated institution. I saved you from that darkness, but you've never once admitted it." That line cut like a knife. The room froze. Members of the team stopped what they were doing, barely daring to breathe. Harry lifted his head and looked straight at her, not with anger, but with a kind of quiet devastation. He asked, almost in a whisper, "Is that really how you see me?" Meghan didn't answer. She folded her arms, turned away, as if the argument wasn't worth continuing. Harry stepped back, his shoulders sinking. His voice came low but firm. "Then maybe you're right. I am a failure for believing you'd be different." Then he turned and walked out. The sound of the door closing was soft, yet it drew a line between two worlds. One that had once been united, now broken. After he left, Meghan remained still. A young assistant approached her and asked gently, "Would you like me to call him back, ma'am?" Meghan simply shook her head and said calmly, "He'll come back. He always does." But this time, Harry didn't. That night, he left the hotel in silence, carrying only a small bag. His personal driver later said Harry asked to be taken to a different hotel without informing Meghan or the media team. As the car rolled through the quiet streets of New York, he sat wordless, staring out the window. No one knew where he went after that, only that his phone stayed off for 2 full days. Meanwhile, Meghan carried on with her schedule as if nothing had happened. She appeared at a charity photo shoot the next morning, radiant, smiling for the cameras, and giving her usual line in interviews, "We're focusing on the positive things." But the press quickly noticed something different. Harry wasn't there. Instead of appearing together, they arrived separately. In the photos, Meghan gleamed under the lights, while Harry appeared later, distant, not looking her way. Their body language said it all. Meghan kept her distance, facing the cameras. Harry stood silent, hands clasped, eyes heavy with sadness. No more gentle touches, no more shared smiles. Attendees at the event later said they could feel an invisible wall between them, cold, distant, and utterly devoid of affection. That evening, they left the venue through separate exits. Meghan walked quickly through the main doors, flashing a polite smile at reporters. Harry slipped out the side entrance with his security detail. When those photos hit the internet, the media seized on them instantly. They're no longer walking together. The next morning, British headlines were brutally clear. The Sussexes, is this the end of the fairy tale? And indeed, the gala that was meant to celebrate charity became something else entirely. The moment they no longer spoke the same language. Not in words, not in glances. Harry had lost faith. Meghan had chosen silence. And the distance between them had grown too wide for any apology to bridge. That argument didn't just end a night. It opened a new chapter in what was once the world's most admired love story. A chapter of silence, self-defense, and cracks too deep to repair. After the New York fight, Harry and Meghan entered what close friends quietly called an unofficial trial separation. No announcement, no paperwork, no scandal, just small, silent changes in their daily lives and an invisible gap that widened with each passing day. They still lived in the same Montecito mansion, but no longer shared the same space. Harry moved into the guest house at the back of the property, where he could read and exercise in the mornings without crossing paths with Meghan. She stayed in the main residence, continuing her video calls, photo shoots, and PR meetings. They rarely had dinner together, and when they did, it was brief, polite, and hollow. No long talks, no laughter. According to insiders, Harry now spends most of his time on his personal projects, veteran charities, mental health initiatives, and speaking engagements. He leaves early, returns late, sometimes stays overnight at his office. Meghan, meanwhile, has thrown herself into public appearances, magazine shoots, and fundraisers, always alone, or occasionally accompanied by Marcus Anderson. They still share a home, but not a life, living side by side, yet walking separate paths. Despite everything, in public they still maintain the facade of togetherness. When their Netflix contract required them to appear side by side at an event, they showed up, on time, perfectly dressed, smiling for the cameras. Yet everyone present could feel the chill between them. Harry stood slightly apart, never touching Meghan's hand. She kept her distance, smiled on cue, spoke flawlessly, as if the entire performance had been rehearsed. Harry's old friends say he's changed. He laughs less, shares little, and avoids talking about his marriage. Instead of arguing, he stays silent. Meghan, meanwhile, seems entirely comfortable in her independence. She continues to shape her public image as a strong, self-made woman. And in that image, Harry's presence grows fainter by the day. They may not be divorced, but the cruel truth is they no longer truly live together either. What remains between them now feels more like an obligation than a relationship, a binding arrangement built on image, brand, and money. The love that once drove them to abandon the royal family now only exists in publicity photos and polite sound bites to the press. There are no longer heated fights because they have moved past the stage of needing to speak in order to hurt each other. What remains is silence, the saddest language of a marriage that has lost its soul. If their love has truly reached its breaking point, divorce wouldn't just be an emotional decision, it would be a financial earthquake. Because for years now, the relationship between Harry and Meghan has been more than a marriage. It's been a brand worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Since leaving the royal family, they've built an image as the couple who broke the rules, captivating global attention. That very image has been the foundation of every lucrative deal: Netflix, Spotify, Penguin Random House, and the Archewell Foundation. The Harry and Meghan brand was crafted as a united front, two people telling one shared story, from royal pressure to freedom and healing. But if they divorce, that story shatters. Media analysts predict that their individual appeal would drop by at least 40%, as most audiences care about them as a pair. The multi-million-dollar media deals built around their joint image could be renegotiated or scrapped altogether. Netflix might lose interest in future projects because, as one executive put it, the other half of the story no longer exists. It doesn't end there. They also share complex, intertwined assets: the $14 million Montecito mansion, the Archewell Company with its subsidiaries, and intellectual property linked to their likeness, content, and product lines. Dividing these assets wouldn't be as simple as selling a house or splitting shares, because it also means dividing control over their narrative. Who would decide the direction of upcoming projects? Who would retain the right to use the Archewell name? These are questions no prenuptial agreement could fully resolve. However, sources close to the royal family confirm that Harry did sign a prenuptial agreement before the wedding, one that safeguards the assets tied to his mother's estate, Princess Diana's fund, and his royal inheritance. This means that if a divorce occurs, Meghan would have no claim over that core wealth. Financially, the balance of power leans heavily toward Harry, but that also gives Meghan every reason to maintain the illusion of partnership, at least until the major contracts are fulfilled. For that reason, even as the tension grows more visible, they continue to appear together at key events. There are no loving glances, no natural handholds, but they must still play the role of teammates before the world, because that's the price of the multi-million-dollar empire they've built. A couple who once declared they had chosen freedom over fame now find themselves trapped by the very media machine they created. The love has faded, but the numbers keep them bound. And sometimes it isn't emotion but contracts that decide whether a marriage survives. Beyond money, however, lies Harry's deepest fear: custody. If money can be negotiated, custody cannot. For Harry, Archie and Lilibet are not just children, they're the last remnants of hope. The only reason he's tried to hold this fractured marriage together. But now, with everything on the edge, Harry knows the next battle may not be fought over assets, but in court, where fatherhood itself could become a bargaining chip. Sources close to the couple reveal that Harry fears Meghan could use their two children as leverage if a divorce ever becomes real. She understands exactly how the media works, how to tell a story that earns sympathy. To the world, Meghan has always been the image of a strong, independent mother, devoted to protecting her children from the pressures of royalty. Harry, on the other hand, risks being painted as a failed father, the man who walked away from the institution he was born into, only to lose his family as well. Their differing views on parenting have only widened the gap between them. Meghan wants the children to grow up in California, where she can control their environment, education, and exposure to the media. Harry believes Archie and Lilibet should stay connected to their grandmother Diana's legacy and to their royal roots in the UK. He once told a friend, "I don't want my kids growing up not knowing where they come from." But for Meghan, where they belong isn't the monarchy. No, it's the world she's building for them, one where she decides everything in one private conversation. When Harry suggested coordinating the children's schedules together, Meghan reportedly replied bluntly, "You wouldn't understand, Harry. I know what's best for them." That sentence left him speechless. It wasn't just disagreement. It was a declaration that he, the father, no longer had a voice in his own family. If divorce happens, Meghan would hold the upper hand. Her image as the resilient mother is a powerful shield before the public. She knows how to manage perception, when to stay silent, when to speak, and how to control the narrative. Harry, meanwhile, has always been more emotionally vulnerable to media scrutiny. One wrong word, one angry outburst, and the British press would tear him apart. That's what he fears most. Not just losing his children, but losing the right to tell his own story. A public divorce wouldn't simply break a family, it would destroy the entire image of the unbreakable couple they've spent years constructing. The tabloids would dissect every detail, the public would take sides, and the name Harry and Meghan, once a symbol of freedom, would become a cautionary tale about fame and downfall. Now, Harry faces two impossible choices: endure the pain to keep his image and his children, or walk away from everything to reclaim peace. Either way, the man who emerges from this will never be the same. So what lies ahead for them? At present, Harry and Meghan's marriage exists in a suspended state, no longer fueled by love, but not yet ready to end. Outwardly, they still present themselves as partners, appearing at the occasional charity event or media project, but everyone can see the truth. There's no real connection left between them. They share the same Montecito home, but rarely the same space. Their schedules are separate, shared meals rare, and both seem to be quietly preparing their own escape routes. Meghan, insiders say, has already begun rebuilding her individual path. She's been quietly expanding her relationships with major fashion brands and preparing a new lifestyle venture, described as Meghan's version of Goop, to reassert her image as a sophisticated, independent, and powerful woman. In her recent appearances, Meghan rarely mentions Harry. Instead, she speaks about purpose, resilience, and the strength of modern women, messages that sound very much like the beginning of a post-Harry era me. Harry, after months of silence, appears to be searching for his own direction. He's dedicating more time to community work, veteran support programs, and events across the UK and Europe. Some insiders claim that he's considering writing a follow-up to Spare, this time focusing on self-discovery after loss and disillusionment. Many believe that if published, it would serve as Harry's way of saying goodbye to the life and the love he's leaving behind. Observers in the international press say their relationship is heading toward one of two predictable outcomes. The first, a peaceful separation. In this scenario, they would release a joint statement emphasizing mutual respect, share custody of their children, and avoid open conflict. It would protect their public image, and more importantly, their personal brands and ongoing projects. The second, a sudden collapse, is viewed as far more likely. In this version, Harry could leave abruptly, without warning, and Meghan would respond publicly, perhaps in a major interview, or even her own memoir. The media battle would erupt, with both sides telling their version of the truth. Everything they have built, the image, the fame, the brand, would be dragged into the storm. Whichever path they take, the unbreakable couple that once captivated the world no longer exists. They are now in the final stage of a relationship where love has drained away, but duty still binds. From that gala night in New York, the world began to see the cracks in what was once called a modern fairy tale. The fierce argument backstage, the cold glances on stage, and the silence between them told the story better than any statement ever could. It wasn't just an argument, it was the beginning of the end. The deeper cause traces back to Marcus Anderson's ambiguous role, the trusted friend who made Harry feel excluded, and to the Paris incident, where Meghan filmed near the site of Princess Diana's death, touching the deepest wound in Harry's soul. Once trust was lost, every attempt at repair became meaningless. Tensions grew as they faced immense financial pressure. Netflix, Archewell, book deals, and joint brand obligations. They're not just husband and wife. They're business partners in an empire where divorce equals millions in losses. And yet, more than the money, Harry fears losing his children, knowing that Meghan could use Archie and Lilibet as leverage, while he, the man who once lost his mother to the media, now risks losing his family to it too. Their power couple brand is crumbling, and their love appears to be gone. They still show up together, but for contracts, not for each other. The future of Harry and Meghan has never been more uncertain. What do you think? Will they keep holding on, or finally go their separate ways? Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications to follow the next chapter in this dramatic royal saga. Royal saga. Royal saga. Royal saga. Royal saga.